Allison. Thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I will give a brief introduction and then I will also let you do a longer introduction of yourself. So
Okay.
welcome, Allison Denney of Rebel Massage. So excited to have you. You've been a massage therapist for over 20 years. You create amazing massage tutorials on YouTube that I just cannot say enough good things about. Teacher, podcaster, blogger, you make and sell lotion for massages. Currently running a private practice in Long Beach, California. So can you tell us about your background, how you came to be all of those things, as much kind of personal, professional background as you'd like to give?
Yeah, it's a broad question. Well, first of all, I don't have a private practice anymore. I work occasionally on some people, but I don't have an open practice anymore. I just have too many of the things that I'm doing that keep me incredibly busy. But I don't know. I graduated from massage school in 2000, so it's been 22 years. Actually, October, I think I graduated October 1st. So
Nice.
happy anniversary to me. And I feel like I got really lucky and went to an incredible school for massage therapy. And when I launched, I kind of launched into all different things when I got into the field. I had a private practice and I worked for a college sports team, and I worked at a physical therapy clinic, and I've worked at spas, and I've worked at chiropractor offices. I mean, I just kind of did the whole gamut, and every time I worked somewhere new, I figured out a little bit more about myself and learned a little bit more about the field and kept refining down to what I knew I liked to do. And then I started teaching, and then everything exploded from there, because teaching was like a whole new door for me. So, yeah, I don't know how much you want me to go into detail, but teaching really was kind of the catalyst for a lot of different things, mainly my YouTube channel. I was having a lot of students videotape my demos, my techniques when I would demonstrate stuff. And this was kind of a while ago. And YouTube was still, I don't know, it wasn't that new, but it was relatively new. And I was smartphones were kind of new. And I was that my students were like, if you recorded your own demos and uploaded them onto YouTube, I would watch them. And I was like, it's kind of a good idea. And then everything just kind of exploded.
How long have you been teaching?
I started teaching, God, I want to say in like 2013-ish. I don't know. It's hard for me to remember. 2012, 2009, 2010. I don't know. It's hard for me to remember. So I've been teaching for a while. I taught really officially in schools for about a decade, and then teaching externally from there, teaching continuing education and teaching online has been where it's branched off into. So I don't really teach at a school anymore, but that was what got me started.
And do you have some help with your videos? It's amazing how good the camera work is and all the different angles and stuff. It's like massage is like notoriously hard to see what they're doing. If you're like, in massage school, we're always like wandering around the table as the demo's happening. And like every time somebody recorded something in massage school, it was like basically useless. So I really appreciate all the like thoughtful camera work of your videos.
Thank you. Yeah, I did. I had a film person for a while who was really amazing. I mean, I don't know if you really look at my videos, you can kind of see I started off at home, and then I moved to a studio, and then COVID hit and I moved back to home. And I've been playing around with different ideas since then. But it's kind of half and half. Half of my videos are filmed with my camera, and then half of them are filmed at a studio with a professional guy who had all the equipment and like the two different cameras with the different angles, which was like the coolest thing ever for me. But I had the same idea as you. Like I was kind of like, when I demonstrate something or when I watch somebody work and I'm learning and I'm taking a class, I want to be like as close to that thumb in that muscle as possible. And so when I started filming, I was like, I want this to be right here. And I want people to see without all the heads in the way and all the distractions. So that was my goal.
How did the body butter start?
I think I was I was just kind of not happy with what was out there. And
Mhm.
I mean, it was one of those moments that I think most of us have in life of just kind of realizing that you're working with something that you don't like, or there's something in your world that you're like, if I would do this, if I did this, I would do it differently. And for some reason, it just really hit me one day. And and I couldn't really find anything else there. I like it. Lotions were too slick, and or lotions were like absorbed into the skin too fast, and oils were too slick. And I felt like after years of teaching and having vats of like, commercial lotions in the classroom that some people had reactions to, and there was just, I don't know, it always felt kind of just icky to me. Um, I don't know. I just started playing around with my own stuff that I knew I wanted. And then I brought some in to some students one day and they were like, "Oh, this is so great. I would totally use this." I mean, kind of same thing. I just kind of like went with my gut and thought, I'm going to just do this and see where it goes.
Nice. Yeah, scratching your own itch.
Yes.
To start with like a pretty foundational question, we talk about tension a lot in massage and like somatics generally, I guess, and usually related to muscles, but also with fascia, maybe other types of structures as well. And I love to ask people how they define tension or like what their kind of personal working definition is.
Yeah, that's a really good question. You sent me an email with that question and I was like, that's a good one. Um, I think tension is a general unease. And I think that's the broadest definition that I can come up with, because I think it hits so many different things. I mean, I think unease can be in how a muscle functions, or how a muscle is unable to rest, or unease can be in how the nervous system acts or responds to the world, or unease can be how fascia clamps down and grips on a muscle or an organ or a joint, or how, lymph can get stuck. Unease can be how lymph cannot move through the system that it's in. And I mean, it's more, it extends from there. It just all the different ways that the body is not at ease is what tension is. And I think it's such a broad term, and we definitely use it in muscles a lot because that's our focus. Like we know soft tissue, but I think it's incredible where tension can settle and how that can show up. And it's so variant and so has so many subcategories and so many different ways that it presents that it's just not a simple definition. But I think in the broadest sense, it's this idea that some or multiple parts of a person are not at ease.
Yeah, I love that. I love the inclusivity of it. Um, I also am really curious to ask you about the emotional aspect, which feels like it folds in really nicely with that definition, which I appreciate. Um, my journey with massage really sort of picked up when I just started having these really big emotional responses in massage, which I wasn't expecting. Like on the client side, I had like really bad back tension. I had a list of reasons why I thought it was happening. And then I started getting massages, and there was just like some emotional floodgates opened. And then I was like, oh, okay, there's like something here. I got a lot more massages, kind of like followed that thread, ended up going to massage school, and like that's also the style of massage that I'm really drawn to giving now, is that like emotional healing, trauma healing sort of like niche area of within massage. And so it's very easy for me to just project that out and be like, oh, emotions are at the base of all of this. This is what everyone needs as a massage, and so I'm really interested to ask somebody with your level of experience and just sort of like the breadth and depth of your experience, how emotionality plays in for you into your massage sessions.
It's exactly what you said. I mean, I don't think it takes all these years of experience to know what you know, and you found it out through your own experience pretty immediately. I think that's exactly what happens to most people. I mean, I want to even say all people. I don't think that any human goes through this life without some sort of trauma. And I think the definition of trauma is a lot broader than we think. I mean, trauma, we think of, when we learn about trauma in massage school, we learned about physical trauma, we learned about a car accident, or we learned about a muscle injury, or we learn, something that is traumatically happening to that structure in that moment. But I think that trauma can also be, neglect as a child, or heartbreak at some point, or, I mean, who knows? I mean, there's so many things that can and do happen to us as humans throughout our lives. No life is perfect and without sorrow or sadness or pain. And it settles in to who we are physically every single time. I think most people aren't quite aware of it. I think there's, I think you and I are in this world where we drop in and we seek this ability to understand why our body feels a certain way and how it's connected to how we perceive the world and how we feel. But I think there's a lot of people in this world who kind of have back pain and go, oh, that's normal. That's the way of life. And I just am living with it. And that's just my back. and I think that, there's always a deeper something. There's always a deeper trigger. There's always something at the root of it. And it is by far my favorite part of what we do. I mean, I think what we do is so encompassing and so broad, but I definitely think that one of the coolest things about our work is when we have a client like you were when you were a client, where you all of a sudden hit this kind of like, oh, now it's starting to make sense. And now I understand these levels of these parts of who I am and how they're connected to each other, and bringing that like balance and peace back to a human is like, I mean, that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, it's just so transformative. I mean, I really appreciate that you mention it in a lot of your videos too, like especially areas of the body where it's really common to have a lot of emotional unease, like working the psoas, the abdomen area. I remember you mentioning that in that video. And yeah, it doesn't take away from the importance of like having a really strong foundation of anatomy and physiology. And I think it can be tempting for me sometimes to be like, oh, I can just like navigate all of this with my like intuition, just like,
Right.
So that's another thing I admire about you, is just how strong you are in those. And so I'm curious, also having the experience as a teacher and knowing that people have different learning styles and things, I'm still trying to find sort of like the right approach for me in terms of learning anatomy and physiology, and not just in a classroom way, but in a really like applied, embodied way. And I'm curious if you have any advice for that process.
I get asked this a lot. How do you learn anatomy so well? How do you get to a place where you learn anatomy? And my biggest, first and foremost answer is always, if you want to learn anything about anatomy, teach it. Like, get a handful of friends and get them together and teach them about the digestive system, or teach them about the rotator cuff, or whatever it is. And I know it sounds kind of cliche, but I can't even begin to tell you, like, my first experience teaching, I got a job at a school and I had to substitute for another teacher that was there. And first, before I stepped into my own classroom, and the teacher gave me some notes and was like, okay, you're going to teach the nervous system, and you're going to step in, and this is the class you're teaching very specifically today. You're going to teach them about a nerve cell. And I was like, I hadn't been in school for a decade, and I was literally like, you've got to be kidding me. I don't remember. Like, I could not have articulated it if I wanted to. And I spent all night the night before. I'm not kidding you. I was all night long, like pulled an all-nighter, and was like, okay, what is a nerve, and what does a nerve do? And what, like, all the components of the axon and the dendrites, and like all the things that I was like, words that I had not pulled from my brain. And so, the central nervous system and the parasympathetic, like the whole thing, I was lost. And I had to stand in front of a class of students and teach them. And all of a sudden I was forced to teach myself so that I could teach them. And it was the most profound moment, because they always say, if you want to learn something better, teach it. But it was like, it brought it home full force for me. And ever since then, I've been like, yeah, just volunteer to substitute for a class one day and see how you react to that. Because you're all of a sudden, you don't want to look dumb in front of the classroom. You don't want to stand up there and have the student say, well, how does a nerve fire from, like, whatever the question is. You don't want to be like, I don't know. So you research and you do the work. And then the more you research, the more you don't know. And then it just becomes this like cool thing that or at least for me, it became this thing where I was like, there is so much to know, and there's no way I can know it all. I mean, this is why doctors go to school for years and years, and they still don't know everything.
Yeah.
So I just like it became a life project for me. Like, I just learn all the time, and I keep learning all the time. And that's kind of my whole MO.
Yeah, I love that answer. Thanks.
Yeah.
Probably very motivating for diving into the stuff that you would naturally avoid too. Just like, oh, it
Oh,
seems
yeah.
super hard. I'm gonna skip that. Like, well, the kids are probably gonna ask me about that.
Exactly. I mean, I felt like I knew my muscles, but the nervous system, I was like, I don't need to know about that as a massage therapist. And then what's funny is that the more I learned so that I could teach it, the more I remembered being in massage school and learning about how a muscle, or a nerve, like, transmits a synapse. And I was like, I don't need to know this stuff as a massage therapist. And I literally just went blank in school. Like, wow, I just checked out. And then when I taught it, and I taught myself it to teach it, I was like, oh yeah, this is actually super incredibly important to what we do.
Yeah,
So yes,
nice.
it's all impactful.
And something you do in a lot of your videos is this like anatomy painting where you'll kind of go layer by layer and paint muscles, fascia, bony landmarks, whatever else. How did that come about?
Um, I when I first started my YouTube channel, I was obsessed with why certain YouTubers were more appealing than others. And I watched a lot of YouTube, and there was this one YouTuber who was a body painter, and she would do these incredible, like, she would make herself look like a monster, or like I don't know, all these horror movie characters and stuff like that. And I loved it. And she one day did a one that looked like all of her skin was ripped off. And I was like, I can name all those muscles. And then I was like, oh, this would be such a good way to learn a muscle. And I
Wow.
had studied art in college, and my mom was an artist, and she taught me a lot about art. And so I kind of picked up a paintbrush and at the time, whatever, 8-year-old son, and I threw his leg down on the couch. I painted the gastrocs on him, like, just to practice and see if I could do it. And I was like, that looks pretty cool. I can do it. And so I
Wow.
did. Yeah.
Love that. I thought that you had studied philosophy in college. I thought I read that somewhere.
I did. Art was my minor.
Cool. That's
I had
awesome.
a double minor of fine art and photography. But my major was philosophy and religion.
I love that the art ended up playing into the massage career that way. Does it feel like the philosophy does as well?
Oh, every day,
Yeah.
every single day. My major enters my world every single day. There's no doubt about it.
Any like examples come to mind?
I mean, I think my philosophy on life, about the fact that we are so, our emotional side and our spiritual side and our physical side are so intertwined, came from my major in college, came from the study that I did. I mean, it was so long ago. I'm so old, but it came from that space. And when I went to massage school, and then, learned more about traditional Chinese medicine and shiatsu, and the whole idea of yin and yang, yin yang, and however you want to pronounce it. I kind of like it all. Just every single day I have moments of kind of looking at how people walk, or having a client that's got a certain issue, and I'm always kind of like, well, where's the imbalance? Or, what is this, what's happening to you? I don't want to say philosophically, but psychologically, or, it's just a perspective on life that I don't think I ever would have had I not had that basis in college. I mean, it just has set the ground for everything. I don't even think that I have a specific moment. It just feels like it really set the tone for everything in my life.
I love that. I was listening to you on a podcast recently, and you said something in that really just kind of was like a moment for me. So I used to get like really deep pressure as a client, and like when my kind of like emotional journey started to happen, then my pressure preference changed a lot, and I get much lighter pressure now. And I started to get into this thing about how light pressure is better than deep pressure. And I think it was also convenient for me that, like, as a small person, it's not really, I haven't quite figured out how to deliver super deep pressure too. So it's a little easy for me to be like, well, people just shouldn't be getting deep pressure anyway. And then you said something on the podcast about how like everything is about the client feeling seen. And like for people with like certain traumas and things, that's going to mean like a slower pace, lighter touch, lower stimulation in the room. And then for other people, it's going to be like really digging in and like, let's readjust everything and let's like dig our elbows super deep, and that's gonna like help that person feel really seen and respected. And it actually like reminded me that that was how it felt for me when I was younger, is that if I got a massage that felt too light, I would feel like really missed or something, and so I thought that, I don't know, that actually comes to mind for me as an example of this philosophy that you're espousing.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, I think that's an awesome way to articulate it. I definitely think that we go through life and we have realizations all the time and on different levels and about different things. And when we are in our own moment of realizing something, I think we can often feel like, oh, I'm just now realizing something that everybody else already knows, which is not the case. Or we have moments of realizing something that we're like, okay, I know something now that nobody else knows, and I need to tell everybody like this thing that I just realized. And I think the truth of it is the ability to pull back and recognize that we're all on our own journey, and we may be realizing lots of different things in different ways and at different moments. And we can't ever expect that what we feel is what our client feels. We can't ever expect that, because it's just not the truth. I mean, everybody has different moments of exactly what you were saying. Like, somebody may be in a phase for a decade that they're just like, I want really deep work, and that's what I need. And I know that's what makes me happy. And I'm not putting up with any, like, I don't want to do Reiki, or there's no way that I would do craniosacral. Like, but then maybe someday, or maybe never, they will get to a place where they had a situation like you felt, where all of a sudden they understood the relevance of it, or the gravity of it, and they wanted to dive more into feeling something that's lighter, or feeling something that is hitting them on a different level, because now they're more aware of that part of themselves. And I just think we project as humans, and as massage therapists, we project all the time. I think it's a very natural thing to do. And I think the best therapists can skirt around their own projections and really listen to the client.
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
So longevity is not a given in this career. A lot of people get injured or similar, I'm curious how 22 years after you started, you stay healthy, physically, or everything like we've been discussing, but also just your passion for the work, how it stays alive and consistent.
I think both my passion for the work and my ability to stay healthy through it all, first of all, has not been consistent. I mean, I've had moments where I was like, I'm out. And I've had moments where I'm like, this hurts too much. But I think that's true of everything in life. And I don't think that bailing is ever an option. Unless you are like literally like you've broken something or you're developing some sort of chronic illness that is really detrimental, which is possible, it happens. But I tend to think that there are a lot of instances, most instances, and I know this happened for me, where I felt like I wanted to bail or I felt like I was in pain. And the truth of it is, I just needed a break, or I just needed a different perspective, a class from a different teacher, or some kind of reinvigoration for what we do and how to do it. But I just think that I think that's just true of everything in life. I mean, I think you can be in a relationship and 10 years in, you can be like, I'm sick of this. Like, I'm really not happy. And if you don't show up every day and wake up every morning and choose to be in that relationship, you're done. Like, you've killed the relationship. And I think it's the same thing with the work, whatever work you choose to do, whether you're a doctor or an engineer or a teacher or whatever you do, if you don't wake up every day and make that choice to appreciate why you love it and why it's good, then you're done. Then you're just done. I think it always boils down to this deeper level of there is a choice. Again, with the exception of, you know, if you are burning yourself out so badly that you're doing damage. And I think that's the harder thing to navigate. It's hard to really be able to say, like, am I at that tipping point where I can't do this anymore? But I do think that oftentimes we can get close to that tipping point and convince ourselves that we are done. And I think it's harder to get close to that tipping point and take a deep breath and take a step back and re-evaluate.
So it sounds like rest and also like continuous study and exploration have been big for you.
Yes, I mean, on paper, yes, those are the things, like making sure I'm getting rest. Like, if you want to go through the logistics of it, taking a rest, getting lots of massages, staying hydrated, eating really good food, getting a good night's sleep, all the basics are incredibly important. I mean, that's one of those things that I feel like I have realized on deeper levels as I've gotten older, without a doubt. I mean, if I eat crappy one day, the next day I'm grumpy. Like, it is clear as day to me. If I don't get a good night's sleep one day, the next day I am like irritable. So those basics are always true. I don't think there's anything new and exciting there. But I think on a deeper level, it's about the emotional, psychological component of making the choice to be in it every day. So if I make the choice to eat healthy foods, stay hydrated, get a good night's sleep, like whatever, all the things that we do, exercise, all the things that we do to stay healthy, then it's going to be easier to stay in whatever I'm in. And if I make the choice to kind of like, you know what, this weekend I'm going to get really drunk and I'm going to eat a bag of potato chips and I'm going to whatever, not sleep, you know, my whole life is harder to navigate. So staying in a career would be harder to navigate if I don't take care of myself.
So it's like alignment rather than having like one foot out the door, one foot in.
Yeah, I think, yeah, for sure. I mean, anytime you have one foot out the door, you're focused on that one foot that's out the door. I mean, it's where your focus is. It's kind of like the body work that we do. So if I'm working on somebody and they've got an issue in their rhomboids and I'm working on their rhomboids and they're talking about something else, or they're somewhere else and they're thinking about something else, they're not focused on this one thing and they're not honed in on helping themselves as much as I'm honed in on helping them. So it's the same thing. Like, if I, as a body worker, am focused on my one foot that's out the door, my one foot that wants to like not be healthy, or my one foot that wants to, you know, do something else as a career, that's going to overtake my thoughts and I'm going to downward spiral from there.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, you know, it's never that cut and dry,
Right.
but I definitely think that, we have the ability to focus on things that we want to focus on. And it's easy to let our brains wander and our hearts wander and think about all the things that could be, or, you know, might be. And I think it's harder to stay focused on one thing. And I think it's harder to stay in something that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The example that you gave makes me want to dive into that a little bit because I'm just always curious to hear people's different approaches with this, and it's something. So I'm in the process of starting a business, and then I'm also working at a place part-time, and it's kind of like a what I would call like a standard massage place, and it's a fair number of tourists in this town, so it ends up being a lot of people, coming for a massage while they're here on vacation and that sort of thing, rather than people who are like coming because they have a specific goal and want to come for some number of sessions or something like that. And so the example that you gave of like working on someone's rhomboids and they're kind of like off somewhere else thinking about something else, like what do you do in sessions where it feels like they're kind of off doing something else, or if you want to like bring the client in more into like, let's do this together rather than like, let me do this work on you, how would you approach that?
That's a really good question. I think it took me a long time to get to a place where I knew what I knew the kind of body work I was going to do in a session. But once I got there, I got really good at telling my client everything when we sat down at the beginning of the session. And most of the time, my spiel, and I don't think this is necessarily true for everybody, I think everybody's different, but my spiel was typically something like this. I would have you come in and sit down, and I would say, if I've never worked with you before, I would say something like, okay, so we've never worked before together, and here's a bunch of things I want you to know. First of all, I don't want you on your phone, or I don't want you, whatever, reading a magazine, anything like that. But I would really come down to the fact that I would say a lot of stuff that supported this idea that here's the thing, I'm working on you. And if you're not also working on you, there's only 50% of us here. And that doesn't really do as much productivity as if we're 100% here. And I can't do things for you that you want to change inside of you. So when I'm working with you, if I find something that needs to be focused on, if you focus on it just as much as I am, the effect is much deeper and much greater. So, we can start off and you can relax and go off into la la land. But if I find something, I'm going to say, all right, are you with me? Because I'm going to work on this. And if you're not with me, that's okay. I'm going to stay in this relaxation mode. But if you're here to relieve some chronic issues or trigger points or whatever it is that's going on, I need you to be here with me.
Oh, I love that. I'm totally gonna do that.
Go for it. Go for it. I hope everybody does. I think the more clarity you have up front, I think it's like raising kids. Like, if you wake a kid up and you're just like, drag them out of bed and put clothes on them and feed them food and then take them in their day and they have no idea what's going on, they're confused and they're like, I don't know what to do. But if you're like, okay, here's the deal. Today we're going to go to the zoo and then we're going to go visit grandma and then we're going to blah, blah, blah. Like, they're like, okay. And then they know, and then they can expect things and they feel settled and they can be in it.
Yeah, I think it also just brings up that like it's very much a like with a talk therapist, it's very much like there's a client therapist fit, and you're not going to be the right fit for everyone, and like this is kind of how I do things, and if we're a good fit, like amazing, we'll do great things together, and if we're not,
Exactly.
it's no big deal.
It's okay. It's totally okay. Like if you want to go to a massage therapist where you can just check out and you don't have to be in it, I am so fine with that. But that is not what I do.
Cool.
Yeah.
And my impression from watching your work is that you have a very wide range, but let's say that you step out of a massage, you think to yourself like, wow, that was the ideal session, that was like the most fun I could have had in a session. What did the session look like? How long was it? What kind of like focus areas did you have? What styles did you do?
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question. There's so many ideal scenarios. I think
Oh, that's good.
energy is a hard thing to define, and energy can be awesome on a lot of different levels. So, I mean, there's sometimes when it's incredible because I just feel like the client is there. I think that's the biggest thing. I feel like the client's there with me, and I feel like the client is appreciating the work and we are doing it together. I feel like that's just the biggest thing. I definitely really love doing slowed down really focused work. That's the kind of work I love to do. Like I don't really love really fast techniques, and I don't love really light techniques, although I think they're awesome. But I love the moments where there's something specific going on for the client, and I am slowed down and I am super present because I have taken care of myself and done all of my self-care, and they are super present because they want to be there for all the reasons that I want to be there, and the connection is just palpable. Like that's just my most ideal session, I think.
Wow, yeah, I can like feel it. I'm like pumped. I'm ready to go give a massage.
That's awesome.
I mentioned, yeah, I just got licensed recently, working on getting a business going. What advice would you give to somebody who is fresh, getting a business freshly started?
Um, I think get through the newlywed phase. I think it's super easy to be excited about anything in the beginning. And I think, you know, getting through that newlywed phase is where the real work starts. Like, when you just open a practice and you just sign a lease on an office and you're starting to get all those great clients in, and they love you and you're doing all the right things, and then a year or 2 years or 3 years later it just hits a plateau. That's really normal. So
Mm,
getting through that phase is how people are going to stay in this career for longer than 3 years. I think 3 years is like the common kind of bailout
okay.
point. But you know, just like anything else, get through the newlywed phase. I think also, like, kindness just rules. I think if you are trying to build a practice, I think being kind about your work and kind about, if somebody comes to you and they're unhappy and they want a refund, just give it to them. Just give it to them. Like, it just it's not worth it. Like, what you want is the long-term build. You want the long-term growth of your business, and spending time on the things that are hard or irritable in the beginning burns you out a lot faster. So
Mm,
just kind of treat yourself with kindness, treat your clients with kindness, treat your business with kindness, and don't get too worked up about stuff that is hard in the beginning, because it's all hard in the beginning. Get through that phase, and then you'll start to feel kind of like where your practice is, what the work you like to do is, who your clients are, and then that'll start to grow. I mean, I always kind of say, if you build it, they will come, like that quote from that movie. The dances, no, it's not dances, it's whatever, Field of Dreams. Um, but if you build it, they will come. And I just feel like if you continue to know yourself and are kind to yourself, and you build that practice from there, the clients that know themselves and like themselves will come to you.
nice. And what do you mean about kindness towards your business?
I think just kind of stuff like that. I think it can be really, I think business can be hard. I think business very specifically can be hard. I don't think any of us go into massage therapy thinking, I'm going to own a business and I'm going to like open a chain and I'm going to be an entrepreneur business person. I think we all kind of get to this, like, the bookkeeping and the taxes and all the paperwork is like the least fun stuff to do. But I mean, I don't know if you know who Diane Mikowski is, but I've worked with her a bunch, and she's incredible with business mentoring and what she's been through with her own business, and she has enormous amounts of amazing things to say about it. But it's that same idea of, if you stay in it and learn the harder stuff, like the tax stuff and the business stuff, and you don't let it get you irritated or get you down, and you're just kind to it, I think it'll be kind to you. Just do the things, spend good money on a good tax person, spend good money on a lawyer if you need one. Like, do those things, even though they might feel painful in the beginning, because it's worth it in the long run.
Awesome. That's super pragmatic advice. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Is there anything over the course of your career that it feels like you wish someone had taught you? You kind of had to figure it out on your own.
I mean, nothing that I don't feel like is on a deeper emotional level. I mean, it always comes down to that stuff for me. I just think first of all, I had an amazing schooling experience. So I feel like I was gifted an incredible foundation for the work that I do. But I do think, oh, shoot, sorry. I do think that, you know, learning what you want to learn and being the massage therapist you want to be and being the business owner that you want to be, or whatever that looks like, is always going to come down to your ability to be present and be in it and keep going. And like I was saying earlier, wake up every day and make the choice to do the thing that you want to do. I mean, I think one good example is one of the big reasons I got into massage therapy is because I wanted to have my own schedule. Like I was just like, I don't want to work for anybody else. I want to dictate my own world. And then I started doing that. And then it was really easy for me to focus on why that was hard, because I'm responsible for all of it. And nobody else just does the sheets for me and does the scheduling for me or does the taxes for me. And I think it then becomes a choice. Like if I focus on the hard parts, then I get angry and irritable. But if I keep focusing on the fact that I'm like, I did that, I'm my own boss and I create my own schedule and I have autonomy and that is my most important thing and I love it so much, then you stay happy and you stay in it. And I think getting into this field is super overwhelming. That's not a lot of schooling and there's a whole lot of information to know about anatomy and physiology. But I think if you keep reminding yourself of why you got into the field, and that becomes a mantra that you live by, then you are in it and you have the perseverance to learn the anatomy and learn the physiology and figure out the business and figure out how to grow your clients. And then it just all falls into your lap.
Yeah, it feels like a theme that keeps coming up in the conversation is this sort of like big picture, like no matter what point you are in the career, just like keep the big picture in mind and like day by day perseverance.
Yes, that is definitely my whole MO.
Nice.
Yeah. For sure.
What I'm curious what kinds of like patterns you've noticed over the years, whether it's like a direction the bodywork field is going or like certain tension patterns in your clients that have changed over the years or anything like that.
Yeah, yes. Nothing that I mean, I could point some out for sure. I feel like, when COVID hit, there was lots of jaw issues from people wearing masks or people sitting too much because people were on Zoom, that kind of stuff. Or I don't know, I'm trying to think of others. Definitely points along history that raise different ways that tension show up in the body. But I think that is, and I think there's also, like you were saying, things that are popular for phases. There's fads that people go through. I think right now everybody's in a lymph phase. Like I think for whatever reason, it feels like lymph is the thing. And like, 6 months to a year ago, fascia was the thing. And it still is. Like it's still awesome. But I just think that's the natural way that humans are. I think we get really excited about something and then we move on to the next thing. And I think that kind of speaks to the like silent collective of who we are. I think we live in this wave that we can't really articulate. And I think there's things that we just all feel tense about, or then we all are attracted to, or we all, I think we are social animals. So we get in that social collective and we get excited about the thing or feel tense about the thing. And I just think that happens in life.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a shiny object syndrome.
Yes, exactly.
Has your approach to teaching changed very much over the like 10-ish years that you've been teaching?
Yeah, for sure. I think that I suffer from massive ego syndrome. And I think that I got into teaching because I was like, I want to be the person who knows all the things and I want everybody to think I'm so smart. And I think it's really morphed as I've gotten older and exhausted from the ego. I think that and I've, worked really hard on it. I think that I've genuinely come back to continuing to love teaching because you do the thing that gives you good energy, and teaching gives me a lot of good energy. When I teach, I feel like, yes, these people are awesome and this feels good to me. And I love being in a space where people want to learn. And and I want to learn, and that just feels like life-giving to me. So yeah, it's morphed. And I think that I used to teach in a way that was like, um, something would come up and I was pretty kind of like, okay, that's wrong. And you need to think about it this way. And I think now I teach in this way of like, it's all big picture stuff. Like I just keep coming back to all the time. It's all big picture stuff. And if you want to learn it, I want to learn it too. And let's go. Like, I don't know, it just feels more like a team effort and less of a me and then you.
So kind of like the massage itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is your main teaching now the online stuff in CEs? I've seen some of them on the massage mentorship.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. I mean, they're also on my website as well, but yes. Yeah, that's kind of been my thing since COVID. COVID hit and I got majorly online. And I've done some speaking engagements, some teaching live engagements since then. But I'm getting back into the classroom. I haven't not done it out of lack of wanting to do it. I've not done it out of lack of time. I just have so little time in my world these days. So, creating a class and making it happen on ground is a lot of work. So if I do it, I need to really like focus a lot of energy on it. And I have a lot of other things that are taking up my energy right now. So, but
Yeah,
it'll happen.
but it's nice to hear that it sounds like a very like clean energy source for you.
Yes, yes, it is. It's really cool. Yes, teaching, I could just encourage people to teach for all sorts of reasons. I think there's so many things you learn about yourself, and there's so many things you learn about whatever it is that you're teaching. And I think there's things you learn about people. And I think teaching is one of those things that, it's good for everybody.
Yeah, I'm super excited I haven't done any CEs yet. Like I said, I just got licensed, but I'm super excited to check out some of your online CEs. It's like the teachers that you've pulled together, it's incredible. Just
Yeah,
the
that's
lineup.
that's all Diane. Like the stuff at all the jam series over at the Massage Mentor Institute, that's all Diane. She is an incredible community builder. But yes, it's been really amazing to interact with these teachers in the field who are like, I don't know, I have so much respect for.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm curious to see what it's like to receive mentoring for body work online. Like I'm just at
Mhm.
a point right now where I'm so hungry for mentorship. I'm in a new city where I don't really know body workers here. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm really excited to kind of like I just joined the Facebook group. I'm excited to see what comes of just being
Right.
around all these brilliant people, and I'm curious to see how it translates online.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's interesting. It's interesting online. I mean, I used to have the mentality that massage could never be taught online, and COVID hit, and I was like, I guess that's changing. But yeah, it is. I think there's bonuses to it. There's pros and cons to everything. And I think,
Yeah.
the cool things about mentoring online and learning online is kind of like what you were saying, like you get these camera angles that are really close and you can see stuff that you couldn't see before. So, you're not feeling it, but you're seeing things in new ways, and that's cool.
Definitely. I mean, I watch your videos all the time. You're basically my main massage teacher since I left massage school. And I'll watch the same videos over and over. And it's like sometimes I'll do it right before I shift at work because it's like maybe I'm gonna want to work on this focus area. Let me like just like review some of this stuff before I go in. So it's very like let me try to take some of these exact techniques. And then other times I feel like I'm almost like not paying attention as closely, and it's sort of just it feels like just a transmission on another level, you know.
That's awesome. That's really great. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, thank you so much for just putting all that content out. It's been such a
Yeah.
game changer for me and for a lot of people I know.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I mean, I did it with a whole purpose of elevating the field, and I, love what we do and want it to
Yeah,
continue to be incredible.
yeah, me too.
Hey.
We have covered a lot in a short time. Is there anything else that like just over the course of our conversation, anything that comes up for you that you feel is worth mentioning?
No, I'm good. I mean, if anybody wants to reach out, my website, I don't know if you're going to include a link, but feel free to reach out. And I'm always, I'm pretty reachable. So it's all good. Whatever, love what we do. I can't stop saying that. So that must mean something.
Yeah, Rebel Massage. I will put your website and some of your social medias and stuff on the YouTube. Thank you so much, Allison. It's been a real
Thank
treat to talk to you.
It's been a pleasure. It was really nice meeting you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.